Hi, I'm Rob, and this is going to be a bike check on my new Gorilla Gravity Mega Trail that I got for the 2022 season. I'll take you for a walk through the bike and give you the specs on it, and at some point later in the year I'll do a review on what I like about this bike. So my bike arrived in late fall. It was November when it finally showed up, and riding season was just about done. I was able to get out for a couple of cold weather rides on it in November. However, I wasn't able to really give it a good shakedown for the year and get a good feel for how I'm going to like it. Spring is just around the corner, so I'm pretty sure that I'll be out riding very shortly, be able to really get this bike dialed in. I ordered this bike late in 2021 because getting a new bike then was fairly difficult, and it was hard to find something that I really wanted to ride. Did quite a bit of research, and I settled on Gorilla Gravity and ordered their bike online. At that point, we were looking at about 6 weeks of build time or a little bit more. But they had all the components in place to put the bike together, and from what I could find in the local area and even online for other mail order bikes, I thought this was the best. One of the reasons that I settled on Gorilla Gravity was they are an American bike company and their manufacturing is still in the US. This is a carbon frame that Gorilla Gravity makes with a proprietary process out in Colorado. So I was pretty happy about that. And the build that I did with it was predominantly North American components to it. Now I'll walk you through the bike and we can take a look at what is on here. Starting with the suspension, it's not Fox, it's not RockShox. I went with Cane Creek, both front and rear. So this bike has the Cane Creek Helm Mark II on the front with 170 millimeters of travel. And that fork is pretty unique in that you can adjust the travel down to, I think it's 130 millimeters. From 170. It's all done internally and the components come with it, so it makes that pretty easy. I did want to point out that my Helm forks up front here, they came with black decals, and the bike was black with just a little bit of red accents, so I felt that I wanted to show off the fact that I wasn't riding a RockShox or a Fox and riding something different, and was able to get a sticker kit out of England this time and re-decaled those forks. They came out pretty well. They should stand out and not blend in, so somebody on the trail will see me. They might ask questions about it. Hopefully I can say good things about the Cane Creek Helm Mark IIs. That's mated with the Cane Creek double barrel Katsuma air shock for the rear. And in trail mode, I've got 155 millimeters of travel. And if I change that setting to gravity mode, I go up to 165 millimeter of travel. That's one of the unique things on this bike, is that I can make some adjustments relatively easy. The headset is made in such a way that I can make some things a little bit loose, and I can turn it around. I can make the front end more slack if I feel that I need to do that, if I'm doing more gravity. And then on the rear end, within the linkage, I remove one bolt and put it into another slot, and I move it right from trail mode to gravity mode, which will give me a different geometry on the bike. Thought that was pretty unique, something that I was interested in trying. The trails in my area all start with an uphill. Which means there's a downhill to be had. So half the time I'm coming down, and I'm hoping that I didn't sacrifice too much by going with a longer travel bike on the climb. We'll see how it does with this setup. My drivetrain comes from SRAM with X01 Eagle on the backside, 1x12, and that's mated to some carbon descendant cranks. And I put on a set of Kona Wah-Wah pedals to finish out the drivetrain. Last piece on the drivetrain is I do have an MRP XCG bash guard just to protect my chain ring a little bit, since I plan on doing some gnarly stuff. Hopefully I'll get to Bolton this year with this bike and ride that area. If you haven't been to Bolton Valley, they do have lift service, and it is some seriously challenging riding. If you're up to that, I would recommend it. If you're just beginning riding and doing gravity, probably not the place to go. On to how the bike will roll. I moved over my WeAre1 carbon rims. They're the WeAre1 unions that are mated to some Hadley hubs from my older bike. I had those built last year and I really loved them. So why mess with something that I know is good and performed really well? So I moved those over. One of the challenges I had was that my Kona I replaced this bike with was a non-boost bike, and this was a boost bike. But luckily, there's adapter kits out there. I got one from Problem Solvers that was recommended to me by my local bike shop, and those hubs went right on quite easily. I did have to have the wheels redished, and because I had them made locally, the local bike shop did it for me without a charge because they stood behind their product that they made, and they knew that I was looking to keep riding those wheels, so they redished them to fit this frame. And for sneakers, they're mated to the Maxxis DHF up front and a Maxxis Aggressor in the rear. Going to the cockpit, the handlebars are E13 carbon race handlebars, mated to an E13 stem with an FSA headset and some PNW grips on it. The brakes are SRAM Code RSCs, 4-piston, both front and rear. And the last pieces on my bike is an SDG trellis dropper seat post with 150 millimeters of travel and Gorilla Gravity's house brand saddle. That's going to get me through hopefully comfortably all season. We'll see how that goes. This is the Cane Creek double barrel Kitsuma shock. It's got high speed, low speed dampening, as well as rebound, and then a 3-position setting for climb, trail, and descend. Right now it's in the descend mode. On this bike with Gorilla Gravity, I said that you could change the setting for the rear shock to go from 155 millimeters to 165 millimeters of travel. That's done by moving this bolt from this top position down to this lower position hole. So here's the headset that I said could also be adjusted to give you a slacker head tube angle. So if you notice, it's a round steerer tube going into it with a normal headset on it. This one's from E13. When you look at the side here, you can see that this is square. And what you can do is once you loosen up the headset, you can raise this piece up and rotate it so that the forks will kick out a little farther in front, give you more stability for downhill. It's a pretty unique feature with this bike. Again, easily done with the tools that you normally have in your trail pack. If you like this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up so I know that you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more content in the future, hit the subscribe button. Again, I'm Rob, and this is something that interests me. Who's not interested in new bikes? I hope you found it interesting too.